welcome to Lilybug's Library. My name's Linda, and we're going to talk about a few things today, so you might want to grab a cuppa. I'm hoping this won't be too long, but you never know. Just a couple of books to talk about that I've just finished, and then I want to talk about stitching cozies mostly, because there's a ton of cozies out there that are either quilting or sewing or cross stitching, and I've got a list of a few of them we'll talk about. I could have went on for hours. There's probably hundreds of these, but I just picked a few. And I have my hair done, as you probably noticed. So it hasn't been a good couple of weeks. So I decided it was time to get my hair cut, kind of a fresh look at everything, and hopefully that makes my mood a little better and helps with a few things. Tried to do this video a few days ago and had so many technical problems, I just pushed it aside. So I'm glad to finally get to it now and get back with you. So the first book that I read was an arc, and it was Torn Asunder, the Maine Clambake Mysteries, and it was number 12. And I hadn't read any of Barbara Ross's before, and unfortunately, this is the last one of that particular series. So the last one she's going to do, according to the back of the novel. So now I definitely have to go to the beginning and start from there and kind of catch up to where I just finished. But it was a great read. It's about, if you haven't read them, it's about Julia Snowden. She helps to run this Maine Snowden clam bake, and it's there's a place there for people to go and have weddings and different events. And she's excited and nervous all at once because her person that she works with at this pottery studio. Her name is Zoe, and she's Julia's best friend. And so they are throwing Zoe's wedding. So her wedding and reception are going to be there, and she's getting married to Jamie, who Julia has also known since she was a kid. And so it's kind of it's a big deal that she does a good job with this. And then on top of it, she is Zoe's maid of honor. So she really is feeling the pressure to be kind of all things. And so, anyway, everything, they come for the rehearsal dinner and everything starts off well. But there's someone there who nobody seems to know. And then the next thing you know, he's dead. So it goes from there as to what happened to him. Was it an accident? Was it murder? Who knew him? All of the things that go with that. And then to make it even a better story, there is a storm that happens so that the people that are still on the island when the storm happens can't go anywhere. So it's that closed door kind of thing, and she does a really good job of it. The characters are wonderful. She has a boyfriend, Tom, who is a police detective. I don't think he's. I'm trying to think how they described him, inspector, detective. We get all that, but anyway, he works for the police department, and I believe Jamie as well works for the police department as an officer. So anyway, they're all really good characters, really well developed, very likable for the most part. You get the occasional one, of course, that you're suspicious of, but I really enjoyed it and really liked her style of writing and just the way that the plot kind of really moved along. I always felt like there was stuff happening. A lot of times you get stories where they're describing things or something's happening, but you don't feel like it's really moving anything along. And in this one, I felt like it was nonstop action from start to finish. So I really enjoyed it. So I would give that one 5 out of 5 stars. So the other one I read was not an arc, but it was Tea by the Sea #1 of the Tea and Treachery series by Vicki Delaney, and that one was good as well. It was about Lily Roberts, and she's working as the owner and head pastry chef of Tea by the Sea, which is a little tea room. Well, that's fine, but her grandmother, Rose, yes, Rose, she's operating a Victorian B&B that is next to this tea room. So there's a developer that comes to town and he wants to change everything, and the grandmother's fighting with the developer. And of course, the developer ends up dead, and they're blaming her grandmother. So her grandmother is very spicy. She has a lot to say about things. So Lily's trying to figure out what happened as well as kind of keep her grandmother in check as much as she can. So it's also very well done. It's you really kind of feel for Lily trying to manage all of this, and you never think that you're never really thinking the grandmother did it, but she does seem like she might have that much of a temper sometimes. So it was really good, and I really enjoyed it as well. I would probably give it about 4 to 5 stars. All right, so that's the ones I've finished. Still working on a couple, but we're now into my May arcs, which is great. I'm whittling down that list, so I really am happy about that. I'm currently reading the Goldie Standard, which is my next arc. As well, I'm finishing up a couple of other books that aren't arcs, but Wonderful Husband and I are reading Saddled to Death, I think it's called. It's the first in the Dr. Kate Vet series, and I'm also listening to something on Audible, but I can't remember what. So, all right, so we'll skip those and we'll move into our stitching cozies. Like I said, mostly cozies. There's a couple of other things thrown in there. The first one actually is called The Quilter's Apprentice, and it's by Jennifer Cheverny. And so it's about Sarah McClure. She's moves with her husband Matt to a small cottage town in Pennsylvania, and she needs a job, so she goes looking, and she talks to this 75-year-old woman named Sylvia, and she's trying to get her family estate ready to sell. And so Sarah agrees to help her if with some compensation, but she also wants the woman to teach her how to quilt. That's part of the compensation. So she's kind of Sylvia's kind of a curmudgeon. She's not real happy with life and things. So she's talking to Sarah during the time that she's teaching her how to quilt. And she starts telling her about her family and, family drama and tragedies and things, and why she really wants to sell the estate. And through the course of time, Sarah starts to really like this woman and wants to help her and maybe keep her from selling the estate if she can solve some of these things with her family. And it also makes Sarah think about her own family and kind of different things that she could change. So I don't know. I think it sounds quite good. It's like I said, not a cozy, but kind of a almost like a family generational epic book. So anyway, I'm kind of looking forward to that one when I get to read it. It's sounds like it's something that could be really interesting, depending on what all the drama's about, I guess. So the next one is called Caroline's Quilt, and the cover on the front kind of made me smile because the woman, I thought anyway, the woman on there reminded me of Nellie off of Little House on the Prairie with her long blonde ringlets and things. But this woman doesn't sound anything like Nellie, so that's good. So her name is Carolyn Rose Kennedy, and she learns about her cousin who ended up getting married, and through like a matchmaker through her mail order bride agency, and she decides she wants to do something like that. So her mother is totally against it, doesn't want her daughter having anything to do with this, but she goes ahead and does it anyway. And she packs up her grandmother's quilt, which is all torn and not in very good shape, and she decides that on the way there she will mend it. So in her travels she gathers patches from different places, and she's, excuse me, weaving that into her grandmother's quilt. So when she gets to where she's going, which is Minnesota, yeah, Minnesota, she is expecting a new beginning. She's expecting, a husband, all these things, and things don't quite work out the way that she thought. So it too sounds really good. It sounds like it would be a nice romance, and I really like the idea of her restoring her grandmother's quilt with patches while she travels. I know there's a lot of people who quilt who, they'll take pieces of loved ones' clothing and put it into the quilt, or if they're, if they have kids and they're making the quilt for a child, they may use pieces of clothing they've outgrown, things like that. So anyway, it sounds like a really neat idea to travel to all these places and have a little patch from each place that you went. So I like that. So the next one after that is called Crossed by Death. And I really love the covers of this one as well because it has the little gas station. And I'll put a picture up next to it of another gas station, which in Canada is kind of what you see for this comedy called Corner Gas. It all takes place at either the gas station or the cafe next door. And I just thought the picture on the book looked a lot like that gas station, so kind of made me smile. So with this one, it's about a salvage expert and historian named Paisley Sutton. So while she's searching, she crawls into this abandoned store that has a house attached, and she ends up finding a dead body. So when she starts to research a little, she finds out there had been another dead body found there at some point in time, and when it was owned by someone and they moved out. Can't say it's a blame them. And so now she's trying to figure out why they abandoned the place to begin with, like what happened in the beginning, and if this dead body is connected to that one. So anyway, sounds like it's going to be a really interesting, cozy, and kind of a bit of a quirky twist to it. So that one looks good. And then let's see. All right, so another one we have is called Sewing Suspicion. And I love all the little puns for sewing and quilting and things. So this one's called A Quilting Cozy Mystery. And so it talks about Alex Bailey, and she was part of a law firm in New York City, but it turns out they weren't entirely honest. They had some kind of dubious practices. So she decides she wants out of there. She doesn't want anything more to do with that. So she takes off and she goes to look after her grandmother. So her grandmother had helped to bring her up, and was known for her quilts and things, and is not doing well. So Alex decides to go and look after her. So meanwhile, while she's doing all this, she heads there and you know is expecting to be able to look after her grandmother. But when she gets there, her grandmother has already passed. So she starts looking into her grandmother's death as to what happened, and whether or not it was an accident and things like this. And she needs to really kind of get to the bottom of all this before she ends up being another victim. So that one I think I'd be really interested in as well. And I've never I've never read anything by Catherine Michael, I think it's called, or Mickle maybe. So I'm interested to see what her style is. So the following one is called Quilty as Charged, which I think is cute. And in this one, the sleuth in this one has an interesting job that I've never encountered before. She is a police sketch artist, which I think would be a really cool job in some ways, and one I haven't seen in a cozy. So I like that. So she ends up coming home to look after the family quilt shop. So she feels it's temporary. She has other things, but she's coming home to help out. So she says the town itself, she said, the people are politely nosy and the pines reach the starry sky. And I thought that was a cute way to describe it. So she goes into the quilting shop and is surprised that there's actually a dead body in there. And so she calls the chief of police and she finds out that that's her ex working as the chief of police. So that's a little complicated and awkward. So it says, add 2 bug-eating cats and 3 cantankerous customers, and Marla will have all the help she wants to get the job done. So, you kind of had me at the bug-eating cats. So we'll see what happens with that one. So the next one is called Forget Me Not. And it's Martha and her best friends, Lucy and Bertie. And so they have a little quilting group, I guess, and they do Quilty Tuesdays. So there's a big quilting competition coming up, and they decide to invite a newcomer. Her name is Claire, and she's not their age. She's only like 40 something, and I think they're quite a bit older. but she is very good at quilting, and they really want to, win things with this quilting competition. So they go to invite her to enter with them and to be part of these Quilty Tuesdays, only to discover that she is dead. So they then have to figure out what on earth happened, and if this is someone targeting quilters, they want that stopped right away because they know they'll be next. So that one sounds quirky and interesting. So I think that would be a good read. So the next one is called Going Through the Notions. So this one is about Daisy, and she is friends with an auctioneer called Angus Backstead, but he's quite a bit older than she is. And, she just knows him from town and things. So she goes to one of his auctions to bid on an antique dollhouse and a Singer sewing machine, an old one. And anyway, she gets there and he's in handcuffs, and the police say that he tried to kill someone. And she knows that, like, that can't be possible. Like, he doesn't seem that type of person. So she starts, checking into that to see, what really happened, because she doesn't believe that her friend did it. Oh, a second, I'll take a drink. Okay, so a couple more. And another one is called Seems Like Murder, and it's, seam like a sewing seam. And this one, I love the cover of it with the old Singer sewing machine. I can't even say that, but it just, it looks very, I don't know, very homey, very much like, your grandmother's sewing room kind of thing. So I like that. And this one takes place in 1920 in New Zealand, which I don't think I've ever read a cozy from New Zealand. I'm almost positive. So this one is about Grace Devine, and she's getting ready to, get her dress business off the ground. It's the 1920s. There's flapper dresses. There's, it's a booming business at that point. So she's getting ready to do all that, and there's a client who ends up being murdered. Her name is Agatha. And the suspicion is on Grace to the point where people don't want to come to her shop and things are starting to fail. And she realizes she has got to find out what happened to Agatha before she loses her business. And she discovers that Agatha tends to know people's secrets and use them against them. So wasn't a nice woman apparently. So they're going to check into that. So another one is So Deadly. And this one takes place in South Carolina, and there's a librarian that comes to town from up north, and her name is Tori Sinclair. So lots of people have, you know, been talking about her because she's new, and but she's not really paying much attention. She's trying to get her business going, trying to make friends with some ladies in this sewing circle, and really doesn't have time to worry about people's gossip. But then she finds the hometown sweetheart dead at her door. And so, of course, then all eyes are really turning to her. And the police investigator is sure that she did it and that she's part of some love triangle. So she needs to kind of get her sewing sisters together and kind of, solve this before they pin this murder on her. So the last one is another, really cute cover. It's called Seems Deadly, and it's very bright and colorful. So this one is about the seamstress Lydia Barnes. So she finds, she starts living in I think it's Peridot or Peridot, Georgia. And her friend Fran, that lives there, operates a fabric store called Measure Twice. And she invites Lydia to work there with her. And Lydia thinks everything's going well. And her friend sets her up with this guy, and they go on this date. And, it's they just don't connect. And at the end of the date, instead of a kiss, she gets a fist bump, and she's like, "Oh, gee, that didn't go well." But even worse, the guy ends up dead, and she's really freaked out about all this. And then she goes to go into the store later on, and there's a dead body there as well. So she's got her work cut out for her trying to figure out what happened and convince everyone it's not her that did it. So they all sound incredible. I think I like I don't sew, well, I mean, I sew, that much, but I don't really sew or quilt or any of those things. So I'm always very excited to read those sort of cozies because I admire people who can do that. It's just not for me. I personally think all sewing machines are possessed, at least around me. It's not something I've ever really had a desire for. So those are what we've got for our cozies. We've had talked about a couple, an arc and another book. So we are set now. We're quite a ways into April, so might maybe have time to finish one, maybe two more before the end, but we'll see. Maybe I'll, get on a spurt and read more than that. So anyway, I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. All right, bye bye.